Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be looking at positioning grid items using the grid area property. So let's get to it. Okay, so we've seen how the grid column and grid row properties work to simplify what we need to write to move and span our grid items. Well, guess what? We can even go another step further. We can use a new property called grid area that will allow us to set grid column start, grid column end, grid row start, and grid row end all at the same time. Now, the grid area property can do more than what I'm going to show you in this video, so we'll see more on what it can do in future videos. Also in this video, I'm just going to be focusing on positioning of items and not the spanning of them. We'll look at an example of this in an upcoming video as well. So let's get started. Now, in all the examples I have in this video, we're just going to be rewriting some of the properties I already have over here to use the grid area property, okay? So for the first example, I've got grid item number 1 in the third column track, second row track. And I've done this by just using a grid row start of 2 for the upper line, a grid row end of 3 for the bottom line, a grid column start of 3 for this third line here, and grid column end of 4 for this line. Cool? And that's how it's placed where it is. All right, so how do we rewrite this by just using grid area? Well, how grid area works is it always takes grid row start first. So that is, in this case, number 2. Then we have a forward slash, and then the second value is always grid column start, which in this case is 3, then another forward slash, then grid row end, and that's 3 in this case, and finally, grid column end, which is 4. Okay, so if I now delete all the above here and just use this, and we save, we're going to see that grid item 1 remains where it is. Okay, so let's reiterate: grid row start 2, grid column start 3, grid row end 3, and grid column end 4. Okay, now you may be asking, what if we don't specify all 4 and we have 3 like this? Well, we can still do this by going grid area. Again, row start is first, so we've got that, that's 2. We have column start, that's 3. And then we have row end, which is also 3, right? We can end right there because the last one, which is column end, is not mentioned here, but it's also the very last value. So we don't need to include it, right? Now, if I actually come here and say delete and save, we can also see that item number 1 stays in that same location, okay? Now, the other way to rewrite this, because this is just one way of doing this, if we were to use the for argument way like we have above, it would be this. So we go grid area 2/3/3 like we had above. Then we go /auto. And that's saying automatically use what the column end is right now. And this would give you the same result. Okay? And that's basically saying that anytime we don't need a certain value in our list, we should replace it with auto. Now, for this example, we didn't really need to do that because it was the very last value anyway, so we could just exclude it. But there are times where you will need it, okay? So with that in mind, let's move on to the next example, which is a grid row start and grid column start. So we just have the first 2 arguments, all right? So for this, we can also just go grid area, and this time we can just go 2 for the row start and 3 for the column start and end right there. And if I delete that and save, we can come down to the third option and we can see it's still in the right location. Now you're probably wondering, can we rewrite this as well? Yeah, of course we can. So we can do this. We can go /auto, all right? And therefore we're giving an explicit auto value for the row end here. And if I, oops, I should comment out the one above and run it. And if we come down to the 4th example, which is this one here, you'll see at the moment, oh, hang on, maybe it's the third example, sorry. It is the third example, my bad. So this one here, you can see that item number 1 is still in its right place, okay? And then another way to write this again is to add the column end value as auto as well, which you may have already guessed. So auto, like that. And we comment this out like so. And we get the same result yet again. Cool. So hopefully you're starting to see the pattern now. And so for the next one, we can essentially do the same thing, but this time we're not going to specify a value for column start. We're just using row start. So the equivalent for this is either, and I'm just going to write these out now, we can use grid area of 2, or we can use grid area of 2/auto, or grid area of 2/auto/auto, right? Like that. And even grid area 2/auto/auto/auto. Cool. So I'm just going to comment out these bottom 3 just for the moment and save, just to make sure that we know it still works. So this is now the 4th option, and you can see grid item number 1 is in the 2nd row, and we haven't specified a column start, so it's just stayed at the front here, which we already know that's how it works. Cool. So if you just need to do a grid row start, you can just go grid area 2. So we'll continue forward. I'll try to go through these a little bit quicker now. So we've got a grid row start and a grid row end here. So the equivalent of this would be grid area. We have the row start. We don't have a column start, so we just put auto, and then we have a row end. All right, so we can do that. And then you can do all the other examples as well. So I'll just go through a few more examples just in case you're still not seeing it. So say for this one, I want to go /auto. Cool. And they're basically the 2 different ways that you can do it. So once again, I'll comment this out and we'll make sure that it's still in the right position. So I'll just delete this and save. And if we come down to the very 5th option, we can still see that the item is in its 2nd row. Okay. Now you might only have a grid row end here, so this is a little bit different again. So we can say, okay, grid area auto/auto/3, like that, and delete that. And if we come down to the 6th example, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yep, 6th example, you can see that's still there, okay, whereas row end here is still line 3. Now for the next one here, we're putting the column start and column end values for item 1, so it starts at line 3 and ends at line 4. So the equivalent of that would be grid area, and we would type auto, and then 3, because we've got grid column start, and then we don't have the end for the row, so we put auto, and then we just put 4. Okay, and if I delete this and save and scroll down, you can see that item number 1 is still there in that 3rd column track, and it's ending at line 4. All right, so maybe sometimes you don't have the end value, you only have the start. Well, that's pretty straightforward. You just go grid area, and we don't have the row start, but we do have the column start, and that's where you ended there. So hopefully you're starting to see the pattern by this point. I've probably gone through enough of them for you to work out, right? But if I come down now, you'll see that the grid item is still there because we specified a column start of 3, because the row start was auto and the column start is 3. The other 2 are also auto. We have end, so we're saying this time we want to specify the row end to be 4 here. So again, very similar. Let's go grid area, and we don't have a row start, we don't have a column start, we also don't have a row end, but we do have a column end. And if I delete that and save, well, we can scroll down to the very second last option, and that was meant to be a 4, I think, not a 3. And now we can see that the second last option is in its right spot. Okay? Now for the last one, I'm just quickly indicating that if you put auto for all the properties, well, essentially the same for grid area is to do this. Just go grid area, auto, and save. And everything will be exactly the way it was intended based on the items that are in the DOM. So that is how we can position items by using grid area. And that's all I want to cover in this video. So I'll see you all in the next one.